All right, Jonny, chapter 6, bridge selling in action, real teams, use cases, and results. So in this chapter, there is a story that you tell about a company that nearly tripled their revenue by only focusing on 2 of the bridge steps, primarily in the beginning. What specifically changed in their conversations that made such a dramatic difference in the quality of their calls?
Yeah, in this case study, and the reason I want to talk about this one is because the 2 steps that we focused on are probably the most likely to be the 2 steps for other companies. And so those steps were step 1, pinpointing the pain, and step 5, giving 3 next steps. And the way we went about that was really just saying, all right, after we did our baseline assessment, we were able to figure out what are the top 3 or 4 questions that when a rep on that team asked, it really invoked a lot of emotion or deep discovery with the buyer. And then we just instituted those questions and said, hey, let's focus on these 4 questions every time. And that was our way of focusing on step 1. And then for step 5, it was getting really good at learning timeline for the buying decision. And we worked on some practical ways to do that, built some magic pivots, and a combination of going deeper on pain points and giving clear next steps. It was almost instant. It was a matter of weeks. And in this case, that was millions and millions more that were being driven by not that big of a team. And it was really cool to see.
Yeah, so impactful. That's fantastic. So a lot of leaders already have a sales methodology in place. And they may be listening to this and thinking, I don't need a new sales methodology. I don't think I do. But what is something that they may consider where it's not that they need a new methodology, but they need the bridge layered on top of what they're already doing, so what they're doing becomes measurable?
Sure. Well, and that's a very normal situation where some sales leaders or business owner or even reps will know, hey, when we do XYZ, deals close. And so sometimes it's building the bridge that it's not that hard because they might be drawing on another popular sales methodology. And all the popular sales methodologies, the ones that are values aligned with bridge selling, they all connect in different ways. So name a framework and it connects to one of the steps on the bridge in some way. And so for a company who's already figured out what's your call flow, what's your process, you have your game plan, you may need to slap a bridge over the top of it to be a scoring function and to be able to measure that more effectively. So if you've got a great game plan, but reps are having a hard time with getting helpful feedback on whether or not they're executing that, turning that framework that you're already using into a bridge score is one of the best ways to do that. And that means the adoption for you is going to be even faster because you already have a game plan. You just need a scoring formula.
Yeah, 100%. When it comes to new hire training, and you give several examples in the book, it's pretty common that brand new reps that are trained on the bridge outperform veteran reps who are not. How should this dynamic inform how sales leaders are thinking about hiring for their team?
Well, I think this is good news because it makes you can be a lot more flexible and you can be open-minded about who you're hiring. And once you define the bridge, what's your bridge selling framework, what's your bridge score, do you have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 bridges depending on your process? Once you have all of that in place, you now don't have to go find someone who's a sales killer and knows what to do and count on them to figure it all out. You can go hire someone with little to no sales experience, plug them into your system, and they're going to do well. If you've built the right system, they're going to do well. I think of a few different companies we've worked with. They would do 10 or 12 person new hire training classes, and sometimes half of them would have never been in sales before, and the other half would be 20-year, 10-year sales veterans. And it was always the newbies with no experience who were doing very well in the first month of the job because they had no bad habits. They came in with a blank slate about what sales should be or what things should look like. And instead they just said, hey, the analogy of crossing a bridge is very simple. We can understand it really easily. I'm just gonna follow this and execute. And so that is a really important thing where even if, and not to backtrack too hard, but even if you're using another methodology, but it's a more confusing analogy, that is something about the bridge that I think resonates really well with reps. If you're using a just more confusing analogy, sometimes taking that same methodology and fitting it into a bridge, it just clicks better with reps. And so I would look into doing that if I was a sales leader.
Yeah, ease of adoption, ease of understanding
Absolutely.
We have seen as such a superpower of this framework. Yeah. So you outlined 4 ways to use the bridge in coaching: role plays, call reviews, lost deal analysis, and deal strategy. If a leader had the time to overhaul just one of these things, where would you recommend that they start?
I would say start with whatever you're doing. So if one of those things you're already doing consistently, start with that and then slap the bridge over it. So either you're gonna be scoring with the bridge, most likely according to that. So if you're doing role plays, maybe now you'll continue doing role plays, but rather than just role play followed by subjective feedback, now you have an actual framework for giving more effective feedback that is based on the bridge score. And I would say if you're not doing any of these things already, start with role playing or start with lost deal analysis or deal strategy and look at it through the lens of the bridge, which is, all right, in one of these 6 steps, where are we at with this buyer? Do we know the pain points? Are they qualified? Have we given them the right solution? All those things work through. And just get familiar with that bridge terminology with whatever you're currently doing.
Yeah. The clarity that brings is really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people when they start using it that way.
Yeah, and one thing to throw in here before we end this video would be, as it relates to role playing, you might be doing role playing now where it's someone's the caller, the other person's the rep, and you have what we would joke about being a peanut gallery of 10 other reps sitting by giving all 10 different feedback points at the end of the role play. Yeah. But it's not really grounded in like a scoring rubric, right? Which is what the bridge is. So one thing to do, and I would try this today or tomorrow if you're watching this video and you got a sales team you're working with and you need to find a way to fill a session, do a role play, have someone be the buyer, someone be the seller, someone be the scorer, and have actually everyone else be a scorer and actually have them fill out the bridge score for themselves. Now you have this great conversation facilitator through the framework where all your reps are not just going to dive in with random feedback from somewhere in their brain and that makes no sense or sometimes doesn't make sense. Now they're going to be giving feedback from this strong rubric. And now as the sales leader, I promise you, you're going to be pretty amazed at the great tips your team gives each other, the conversation that comes from it. And now because you've got this tool in the bridge selling framework, you don't have to be the world's best coach. You don't have to be the world's best strategist. You can let those tools and frameworks guide your team with you. So those are some things I would try right away.
Yeah, I love that. It's highly actionable. So good. All right, so let's head into chapter 7, where we're going to talk about bridge selling momentum and long-term wins. See you there.
All right.